Hey guys, we got such great feedback from the higher ed community on our last Enrollify Roadshow in New England that we thought it was time to hit the road again. So over the next few days, we will be in California talking to students, faculty, staff, and alumni about the future of higher education. Yesterday, we interviewed students at 2 San Francisco universities and asked them about how they were marketed to as high school students and how they approached the college search experience.
So you went to USF yesterday. Who'd you talk to and what did you learn?
So it was funny, we talked to a number of different students, but one that comes to mind as a more significant conversation was a conversation we had with Catherine. And she decided that she wanted to go to school in the Bay Area because she wanted to study biology, and the Bay Area is a great bio hub, but she knew she couldn't afford to come to school here for 4 years. So she actually enrolled in Kennesaw State.
I started off at Kennesaw State University, which is like 20 minutes away from my house, so I decided to save money.
Yeah.
Because out-of-state tuition here is crazy. So I decided to save money for my first 2 years and then transfer over here.
So what really stood out to me about Catherine's story was the fact that when she enrolled at Kennesaw State, she had every intention of ultimately graduating from USF. And going forward, I just don't know that Catherine's story is going to be that unique.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see how recruitment offices really shift their marketing strategies to really go after those audiences that might be going somewhere for, again, financial reasons, family reasons, but then ultimately having that end goal of going to a different university. Who else did you chat with? Did anyone else have any interesting stories?
Yeah, actually the next student that comes to mind was this girl, Adrienne, and she had such an interesting story. There were 2 things that stood out in particular. First and foremost, she started her college search with a particular program in mind. So at the undergrad level, oftentimes it's about location or experience, right? But for Adrienne, she knew that she wanted to study international studies, and all of her Googling about where to go to school revolved around that particular program. And ultimately that landed her at USF. Next, I asked her about her college admissions process and what, if anything, was particularly frustrating about it. And here's what she said.
It would be like, oh, well, that question you need to call this office for, and that question you need to call this office for. And then maybe you should probably get in touch with so-and-so. I'll give you their email for this specific question. There's no centralized system, and it's very frustrating. Because for new students, especially when you're 18 years old, you're trying to figure all the world out for the first time. It's so incredibly annoying because you don't know how the world works, and you don't know how any of these systems work, and you're on your own.
It's funny, it kind of reminds me of when you call a support line and they have you hit 1 to talk to this person, and they give you half an answer, and then you have to hit 3 to talk to somebody else and jumping around. And I think that works for crappy support lines who sell mediocre products, but in the admissions process, that seems like quite the hurdle. It kind of reminds me of...
Oh, wait, sorry. There's one more story I wanted to share, which is about Kyle. So Kyle is an international student from the Philippines, and one of the things that was so remarkable about what he shared was that he had applied exclusively to California schools. He applied to 7 California schools, and of those schools, only 1 admissions counselor made the trip over to the Philippines to talk with him and students from his school. And that admissions counselor happened to be from University of San Francisco. And what he shared, which was so remarkable, is that the admissions counselor came not once, but twice to the Philippines. And ultimately, no one else bothered to show up. And so it was an easy decision for Kyle. He ultimately decided to enroll at USF. So Shane, talk to me about your time at San Francisco State. Who'd you talk to? What'd you learn? What was interesting about that experience?
Yeah, definitely learned that it's really hard to get students to talk to you, even when you have $10 Starbucks gift cards to try and fuel their caffeine addiction. At one point, I literally even had to chase a kid down to try and get him to talk to me.
Okay, so who did you actually talk to?
So when I finally got somebody, I was chatting with Ida, who was talking all about kind of how she discovered San Francisco State University. She kind of just passed the campus and thought it looked cool and stopped in. And then as she learned more about it, she realized they have an awesome faculty to student ratio, and they give a lot of hands-on experience in their courses, which is something she was definitely looking for. And I think she had such a positive undergrad experience that she even said if she were to continue on her education and get her master's degree, that she would be looking for those same things in a master's program. And with her positive experience at San Francisco State, she'd likely continue her education there.
It's super interesting what you share about Ida, because we found the same thing to be true at USF. A lot of the students that we talk to, for whatever reason, fear that once they get to the graduate level, they're gonna lose that one-on-one personalized experience.
Yeah, that reminds me of this guy, John, that we talked to, who's a current SF State grad student. And he was sharing with us a lot about his experience in the search process, being targeted with ads from universities across the country specific to his program. But what stood out with him about San Francisco State was that they really targeted him based on his area of interest and kind of the program that he was pursuing and had made up his mind about. And he got information about faculty to student ratios, he got insights on the program, career outcomes, a lot of the helpful information that I think really helped and led him ultimately to enrolling in San Francisco State.
I feel like that's a really good reminder of the importance of good digital advertising as part of the student recruitment process, and especially good digital advertising that talks to program-specific outcomes.
So, super eventful day. If we had to condense everything down, what are kind of the two biggest takeaways you think from the day?
The first one is that we need to find a way to centralize the communications process for everything related to the admissions experience. Students should be able to go to one place and get all of their questions answered about the admissions process. And then I think the second big takeaway is we need to do a better job at personalizing the admissions experience down to the individual prospect, whether that's flying to the Philippines, right, or being really specific and intentional with our digital advertising targeting. Personalized experience makes all the difference in where students decide to enroll. All right, folks, that's a wrap of our time in San Francisco. Today we head to San Diego to collect more student stories. Special thanks to our friends at Unibuddy for making this roadshow possible. You can learn more about their incredible peer-to-peer student recruitment platform at unibuddy.com. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to head on over to Enrollify.org and subscribe to get access to free higher education marketing, podcasts, video resources, and more.